welcome back to Mysteries Channel. Today I'm going to talk about the news. Now, what's actually happening in the world because, well, it's really hard to figure that out these days. I'm going to talk about something that affects us all, was brought out into our consciousness by a very unlikely source. If you think that I'm making this video because I'm a fan of this person, you are wrong. I'm not a fan of any of them. I trust none of them. I think that if you get into a certain level of political influence, if you're in that sphere, that bubble of people, that at a certain point you are corrupted by either money or in other ways. So, that being said, let's talk about fake news and how over the course of my life I have noticed a substantial difference of how news was presented, in the past to the way it is presented now. Now, when I was young, this is how our day would start out. My dad would wake up, he would get a cup of coffee, he would turn on the news. He would walk around the house playing taps on a fake bugle to wake us all up in a pissed off mood. You know, starting the day out right. He was then off to work. In fact, not just him, my mom was out too. And me and my sister were left to our own devices. A time where it was totally legitimately okay to leave your kids at home alone as long as they had a key to the place, you know what I'm saying? And it was a great time to be alive. Basically, we would leave the news on as we got ready and then shut it off as we were heading out to school or whatever. Now this ritual, if you will, it's kind of like what it was, lasted for a long time in my life. And there was a period in my life when I realized like something has changed and I stopped watching the news altogether. Let me just say, my dad, he was in the military. He was a little bit more conservative and he watched Fox News. I was on the other end of the spectrum. I was more liberal minded and I watched, I don't even remember anymore. It's been a while since I've actually watched the news. I want to say it's like CNN. I worked a weird job that had very strange hours. Sometimes I worked at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, 5 a.m, 1 p.m. It really didn't matter. It was all over the place. But I always did the same thing that my dad did growing up. I didn't walk around the house playing taps. No, I would turn on the news and drink a coffee or whatever I had to do to get my mind right to go to work and go off and do my day. Well, gosh, I want to say it was around 2008, maybe give or take a couple of years, when I just started noticing, I don't know, it's like I just started to kind of wake up to something where it's like, man, what the hell am I watching here? And it basically was this. The news would be on and there would be about 30 seconds to a minute worth of actual news. Little blips of information about something that is happening somewhere. There would be a chain of them connected together, and then right before commercial, they would have the build up to the big thing the news was talking about to make sure that people didn't change the channel and stayed connected to the news. Now it would be, let's just say it was around the financial crisis. It would just be like, you know, Lehman Brothers went down and there would be 30 seconds of information on that. Then it would say that, you know, there was a chemical spill in this part of this city, 30 seconds to that. There is a huge snowstorm out there and flights are going to be delayed and canceled, like a minute to that. About 10, 15 stories strung together where you get very little actual information unless, of course, it was the weather. And then the big buildup to the story they're going to present to you right after the commercial break. What was the story that made me realize, like, I'm watching some bullshit? The big thing that they were promoting at that point in time was, I want to say it was Dancing with the Stars. I gave absolutely no shit about that show at all. I'm not saying it's a bad show. I don't know because I've never watched it. I just never freaking cared. I didn't care and I couldn't believe that it was making it onto the global news, like what I thought was supposed to give me information about what's happening in the world around me. So I thought, that's weird. This channel has really gone downhill. I'm going to change it to whatever the other left-leaning channel was. And I did. I changed to that channel. And guess what? Everything was the same. Everything was the same. The literal words coming out of their mouth to the little robot that's speaking the words was the same, down to the damn pauses they took for breath. The stories were the same, where there was almost no information given out at all. Just a little blurb so you knew something big happened over here. I'm not going to tell you what happened, but something big happened over there. Oh, people over here are going to lose everything. Everything will be gone for them. I'm not going to tell you how that actually went down, how everyone's losing their entire life savings that they've put into their 401ks. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to string along a bunch of nonsense together for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to give you the big buildup. And the big buildup for this station was, wait for it, The Bachelor. Who freaking cares? Are you kidding me? I am not watching the news to watch a commercial for The Bachelor and Dancing with the Stars, and God only knows what they're promoting on Fox News. I don't care. Long story short, went to go hang out at my parents' house on a Sunday, and I was at my dad's house, and he was either Fox News, the History Channel, or sports. Mostly sports. It was mostly ESPN, but he happened to have Fox News on, and I'm telling you, I don't remember what TV show they were promoting. What the news was really about was promoting a TV show at that point in time, and it probably still is, because this is the point in my life where I said, I'm done. I shut cable off. I didn't even care. All the shows they were promoting were so freaking stupid anyway. But my dad was watching, and guess what I noticed? The stories that they presented were exactly the same. There was a little bit different spin on them, because the one that I was watching was it's all those guys' fault, and these were it's all those guys' fault, creating this weird dichotomy where the stories are the same, but they're somehow blaming it on the other person. And I just thought, I can't even believe it. Same thing. To the very breath that they took, they spoke the same way, they act the same way, they dress the same way. They're just shifting blame a little bit differently on both sides, but the stuff that they're actually talking about was complete and utter garbage. It didn't inform me about the world and the events happening around the world in any kind of a way at all. At this point, I realize it's a propaganda machine, and I kind of just check out. I find my news a different way. What do you think changed all this stuff? Over the course from when I was a kid, things have changed. How have they changed? Well, in 1948, an act was passed through Congress. This act was the Smith-Mundt Act. It was designed to protect the American people from propaganda designed by our government. The propaganda we were being protected from was designed for foreign lands and foreign audiences to promote feel-good America stories. Most or many of these stories were played for audiences connected to communist parts of the world. So, for over 60 years, the Smith-Mundt Act protected us by prohibiting the U.S. Department of State and the Broadcasting Board of Governors, the BBG, which in 1999 became known as the U.S. Agency for Global Media, from disseminating government-produced programming within the United States for fears that they would be propagandizing the American people. Then in 1949, a policy was instituted by the FCC. This policy was called the Fairness Doctrine. It required the holders of broadcast licenses to both present controversial issues of public importance and to do so in a manner that was in the FCC's view as honest, equitable, and balanced. The Fairness Doctrine had two basic elements. It required broadcasters to devote some of their airtime to discussing controversial matters of public interest and to air contrasting views regarding those matters. Stations were given wide latitude as to how they provided contrasting views as long as they did so. It could be done through news segments, public affairs pieces and shows, or editorials. The doctrine did not require equal time for opposing views, but required that contrasting viewpoints be presented regardless. Well, in 1987, this rule was no longer enforced. And the demise of this rule is considered by some to be the contributing factor for the rising party polarization in the United States. This was a practice that helped keep newscasters a little bit more ethical in the way they presented things. And then in 2013, President Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act into law. In doing so, he authorized implementation of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, eliminating the domestic dissemination ban. This abolishment of the domestic dissemination ban has led to a not so heated debate on the role of the federal government in free public discourse. Now, there are some people that support the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. They applaud the repeal because they believe it will promote government transparency, allowing Americans to monitor overseas government broadcasts and to study source material that was previously off limits. That's about the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Why do I think this is stupid? Because if they are presenting it to the American public, are they telling us if it's propaganda or not? We will be able to see propaganda without actually realizing that we are being subjected to propaganda. So to say that we would be studying it I think is misleading, to say the least. In fact, we are just going to be another social experiment, one that's been played out by many governments over the course of history. But I mean, we can kind of figure out what happens in a situation where the government can influence what is presented to the media and what the media can put forth to you. Another reason why I think that this entire thing is kind of ludicrous and BS is because not only does the government have a back door, the door that's already been open. I mean, let's be honest, that door doesn't swing, it stays open, and the government has been using it any which way they can. I'm positive that they have used the media to disseminate information to the US public in many ways for a very long time. But now they don't have to hide it. And the other thing that happened is the media no longer has to check its sources. It just has to know that the source was the all-seeing eye behind them to say, yeah, this is it, people. This is the story. There is no source checking. There is no fact checking. It gives them a backdoor as well. They don't have to present information that is legitimate. They don't have to present anything that is true at all. I feel like at this point, the media has no repercussions at all for presenting fake news. None in any way at all. They don't have an ethical standard that they have to abide by. And there is nothing to say that they actually have to present anything that is true. I'm not saying all journalists are bad and corrupt, but I think that even if you are a great journalist who is on a story that the entire world should know, that your agency that you're working for, they do not have to present that story. And so because of this, I no longer watch regular news. I don't even watch cable at this point. No, instead I go and I get my news from independent sources. I'm just going to name a few of them. I'm not saying that you should take my word for anything at all. Find your own independent sources because we're all interested in different things. One on YouTube I use is We Are Change. I feel like he is more balanced than any of the news that I used to watch back in the day. And not only is he more balanced, but he literally goes to the places he's talking about. How many times are you watching the news and they are just sitting in their little stupid office with their fake background behind them talking about something or somewhere they have never seen or been? They have no idea if what they're talking about is true at all. No, this guy instead actually goes. Like when there's riots in Paris, guess where he's going? He's going to Paris. When there is crazy stuff happening in South America, he's going there. He's interviewing people there. He's showing you the scene on his camera. He's literally showing you the truth. I don't know this person. He definitely doesn't know me. But I would say that he would be a good independent news source if you want to actually learn about some world news. I also go to Reddit. I don't trust everything I see on Reddit, but man, I don't even know if I would have known about the Hong Kong riots, or I would have heard about it for like a second on a day. I would have heard about it for 30 seconds on one day on a Thursday. Just saying, go check out some other independent news media because they now have free reign to say whatever the hell they want. It doesn't have to be based on anything actual or based in truth at all. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you like what you're watching, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, because in reality, the discussions we have on the comment board are probably even more interesting than the videos themselves. All right, thanks and have yourself a great day.